Hello and welcome to a new episode of Connected from Home, where we choose to stay safe yet refuse to be disconnected. We connect with interesting people from all around the world, get to know more about them, seek inspiration, and have fun. The outbreak of COVID-19 era caused a lot of uncertainty and a lot of instability when it comes to economy. Our guest today is economic researcher and business consultant Munther Faisal, and he's going to answer a lot of questions. Stay tuned. Hello, Munther. Thank you for being with us in this episode of Connected from Home.
It's my pleasure to be with you, Hebe. It's an amazing show, and I really hope that I can add value.
You definitely add value. You need to tell us what's happening with the economy nowadays. It's very unpredictable. 2020 and 2021, I think it's going to be even more unpredictable.
Yes, definitely. 2020 and 2021 will be a difficult time in the economic history. The current pandemic is really hard to predict its effectiveness and how long it might take for us to overcome it economically. So some countries might overcome it in a year, 2 or 3 years. Some fields have been actually affected positively and some negatively. For example, the e-commerce in the first 3 months of 2020 increased sales of 50%. When we talk about the aviation and tourism field, of course, it was affected negatively. And as so much people read that so much airlines were bankrupt because of the current pandemic, for any company or any country to overcome this pandemic, they need to analyze how difficult the situation is, and they need to know what they need to change in themselves and their strategies flexibly and understand the market so they can overcome it with the least negative impact.
Okay, so what would be your advice in Bahrain, for example?
At the moment, as everyone is reading and seeing, that the government has been supporting so much fields every 3 months. And why is it 3 months? Because 3 months gives you more flexibility because you never know what will happen in the next 3 months. So we really hope in the next 3 months, for example, that we overcome the pandemic and its impact reduces. So my advice for any company, whether it's a small, medium, or large enterprise, study the market and look for opportunities. In every crisis, there has to be an opportunities. The Chinese have this famous quote. They say, the coin has two sides, so opportunity and challenge. It's the way you look to the market. At this time, we always look for more creativity, innovation, and thinking outside the box. Something that no one did before. So, for example, if everyone is moving towards e-commerce, which means you need to have a digital strategy, you need to be flexible to move to the e-commerce era. It's really hard. There is positives, there's negatives, but you need to have studies, strategies that are effective. So my advice in a very simple form, do feasibility studies.
And I think this is what we have seen with a lot of businesses, maybe in the past period. I think the past 6 months, were very different. And
Yes.
we found some businesses rising when we did not expect it, and others stopped, and some are bankrupt, as you said. So I think it's more about creativity and innovation and flexibility.
Definitely.
So some businesses knew how to adapt with the situation and come up with different ideas, and some even
Yes.
changed their activities and the course of how they deliver their services, while others just stopped. So can you give us some positive examples without, of course, mentioning brand names?
Of course. At the beginning, in every crisis, every company, every economy goes into 3 stages. The first is the shock, which we sometimes call it a heart attack. And the second is living with the crisis or living with the challenge. And the third is the recovery. Every company, every country could be in different stages. So at the moment, for example, we are all trying to live along with this crisis and this pandemic. But some companies might be still in the shock stage and they're still thinking, what shall we do? What shall we change? It doesn't have to do how big the company is. It might be a small company that understands the situation, understands what to change, thinks outside the box, knows how to utilize the technology in its business strategy, and how its employees can change flexibly and increase the productivity. So some companies were able to change and they moved towards e-commerce because before the pandemic, they were actually ready. They had the strong base, the strong structure. Some companies, even if they were big and they had so much capabilities, but they lack understanding, they lack research and development. Global companies today, such as Apple, Google, Microsoft, spend billions of US dollars on R&D. Why? So they can come up every year with a more developed and something that their targeted segment wants and needs. So research and development is the opportunity for you to overcome the crisis in the most effective method.
Okay, so if we talk about small and medium enterprises or even startups, what advices do you give today in this situation?
If you realize in the GCC in particular and also in Bahrain, so much small enterprises have been focusing on the food industry, specifically food trucks. And before I start, what I want to say is I really appreciate the effort of the youth, especially the young people who are entering this market and they want to depend on themselves. I'm really proud of them. However, going into any business field needs to have a strong structure. You need to have a study, a feasibility study. So we see so much great ideas, great products. However, they lack consistency. Why? Which means they have no business structure, no business principles, no studies. Not all of them, some. So for you to be able to continue in this market and develop your idea, develop your food truck, you need to understand the basis of business. How does it work? So if you realize they all copy the ideas of each other, they all sell for the same product price, they all target the same segment. So if you go and ask them which segment do you target, they would say everyone. Doesn't make sense in the business model. You need to have a targeted segment because every segment has a different behavior, has a different need and wants, and every market has a different need and wants. So my advice to them, study the market. If your business can move to be online, then move it. But if it's in the food industry, it might be a little bit hard. However, you need to have a strong marketing and you need to be consistent in developing your product and your ideas.
Okay, so I know that now e-commerce is inevitable. It's not an option anymore. So what are your advices for businesses that want to switch to e-commerce or even add e-commerce to their functions, or even businesses that want to start up in the e-commerce field?
E-commerce is not only about social media. Social media is a marketing and a source of building communication.
Yes.
Moving to e-commerce, you need to first understand positives, negatives. So let's start with the positives. You can work 24 hours. You can have your business running 24 hours, cheaper expenses, much different than having a physical shop, let's say. Negatives, there is millions of applications, millions of websites. So how can you differentiate yourself out of all these competitors in the market, whether it's locally, whether it's globally? Yes. After understanding this important base of e-commerce, then you will have your website, you'll have your product, of course, you'll have your supply chain network. Then comes the marketing, then comes the communication. We have this very important thing in our market, and it's a problem actually. Lots of people get mixed up between two things: sales and marketing. They're completely different. Yeah. Marketing is about building awareness about the product. So it's indirect sales. It's not direct sales. When I say direct sales, it's when I say the products for 20 BD or 30 BD. When I say marketing, it's when I say why this product is different, which makes the customer interested and will go and purchase the product. Here I will go back to a structure of Kotler and Armstrong. It's a book about principles of marketing back in 2005. They had this model, which is called AIDA, which stands for awareness, interest, desire, action. So that's the principles of marketing. So how do you build awareness and move to the four stages, reaching to the desire of the customer and the action of the customer. Action means purchasing the product. But you need to know the difference between sales and marketing, and how can you build a solid communication bridge with your customers, reach them anywhere, anytime.
Okay, that's very good. I think a lot of people would learn from that. I told you this episode is going to turn into an educational one.
I hope so. I hope people will benefit from what we're saying and take that into consideration.
Okay, so if we talk about someone who's starting up, it's still an elaboration on the question I asked before. How would they stand out? You said that the competition is fierce. So
Yes.
how would the business stand out?
First of all, you need to have a feasibility study. That's number one. Why? Simple as
Again,
it is.
for the
Yeah,
tenth time,
well,
feasibility study.
of course.
Yes.
Because you know why? Because we work as a business consultant. I work as that, and lots of companies come to us when it's very late. And when I come to analyze what they're doing, there is no study. They're just working, let's say randomly. Randomly, which means you will not last. You will never last in the market. So, having a study or understanding the market makes you aware of yourself and what you need to change in yourself before taking any step. So maybe the product you have needs to be changed. Maybe the field you're in needs to be changed. Maybe the whole idea, you need to change it. You need to cancel it. There is nothing called in business that a product will last forever. Let's go for an example. BlackBerry was one of these companies that had an amazing story, and we really loved BlackBerry. And at a certain point, it was above Samsung and Apple in the market. But they reached to a point where they thought that they will last forever with the BBM. They will last forever with the way the display or the function of the BlackBerry. What happened? Going back to 2012, collapse. The people who actually started the company even resigned, and they kept on changing CEOs. They sold the application. They went backwards. Nokia, same story. So there is nothing lasts forever in the business field. You need to be very flexible, especially that we never know what will happen in the next few years.
Okay, so talking about unpredictable things and what's happening after the outbreak of COVID-19. There are certain factors, I know that you have mentioned in your videos before,
Yes.
that determine if the gold prices, for example, will rise or fall, and same thing with the oil. So can you explain it a bit for our viewers?
It's hard for anyone to predict what happens in any field. We try to estimate, but it's really hard to actually get it right. For example, when you talk about oil, people used to say that oil will always be stable and investing in the oil field will be the best opportunity. However, what happened? What happened to the oil field? The crisis happened and it collapsed sharply. So, but even when it collapsed sharply, there was an opportunity. For example, Aramco's IPO, when it was first listed, it was around 32, 33 reals. When the crisis happened, it went down to 26, 27, to 35.90, because I checked it just now.
Yeah.
So you see how it goes. It moves up and down. So for you to enter that market and invest in that field, whether it's oil, whether it's gold, you need to understand when do you enter and invest in the market and when do you leave the market. This market is really it's difficult, definitely. It has positives, it has negatives. But the problem we have in the GCC and the Middle East, I would say, people look for short-term investments. They think, I will invest in 1,000 dinars, and after 6 months, it will become 10,000 dinars. Impossible. Impossible in any business. That's impossible. Unless this business doesn't work on, I would say, natural business principles.
Yeah, illegal ones.
Illegal, so maybe it's money laundering. All right, so when you go into any field, you need to understand this field. So maybe the last a few months, people were talking a lot about IPOs and maybe even about cryptocurrency. And they were like, let's go into this field and spend all our money in it. But here's where I asked them one question. Why do you want to invest in this field? Do you understand it? Yes or no? If you don't, then why do you want to go in it? Okay, you want to become rich. Everyone wants to become rich. We know
Yeah.
that. However, you need to understand that investing in IPOs, for example, it's always a long-term investment. In gold, it's a long-term investment. So if you're looking for a short-term investment, that's not your market. And forget about it.
So, from your point of view, is this the right time for people to buy gold? A lot of people are saying nowadays everything is unpredictable. We should go and buy lots of gold. What's your
Yes.
advice?
First of all, why do you want to buy gold? In particular, my message is for the women, because we know that women love gold. They adore gold. So they will look for any reason, go and buy gold. And especially
Yeah.
married women, they'll tell their
An
husbands.
investment.
Exactly. They will tell their husbands or their dad. They will be like, it's a very good investment. It's the right time. Let's go buy gold.
Yeah.
Um, but here's my question: why do you buy it every month? If it's investment, why is it every month?
It's still a long-term investment. She's going to buy it every month, but she's going to keep it forever.
Why does she sell it after that? After like a few months, she will go and sell it.
No, it's
So
a long-term till death investment.
no. See, if you want to invest in gold, invest in the long term. So, for example, you buy it in the right time and you sell it in the right time. So you buy it when the gold, the prices decline, and you sell it when it goes a little bit. It will increase a little bit. Don't look for high. I would say high increase in prices, because sometimes there might be a small increase in price, and it will be a good opportunity for you to sell it. But sometimes people are a little bit greedy. They ask for more. So
Yeah.
that's when they lose this opportunity.
Yes, I think a lot of people are thinking about that. When should I sell my gold? When should I buy gold? So yeah,
Yes.
I think a golden topic, especially
Graph.
nowadays.
Look at the graph in the past years and you will understand more. The graph
Yeah.
will easily give you whether it's the right time or not. It goes down a bit, you can purchase, goes up a bit, you can sell. But you still need to know when do you enter and when do you leave this market. And don't
Yeah.
just buy gold because you just want to wear it.
Okay. And claim it's an investment. That's evil.
Yes. That's what they always say.
A lot of people can be victims of fraud or money laundering. So, how can a young investor differentiate between a healthy, legal, legitimate business and something that is off? Something is fishy about this. This is money laundering.
So, in any business, if you want to understand the legal and the illegal terms of dealing with any business concept or any business deal that you might actually come across, very simple as it is, have a lawyer that understands and the legal and illegal manners. So simple as it is. If today I'm an economist, I don't understand when it comes to talk about law. So I need to have a lawyer that will help me and support me and make me understand what's right or wrong. So
Yeah.
today when I with any company, I have a lawyer that I go back to and be like, here's the papers, please go through them and tell me what's right and what's wrong and what do I need to change. The problem we have here is when people come and deal with each other, they don't read the terms and conditions, which is really important.
Yeah.
Why? You just come and sign the papers, and after problem happens, you go like, all right, I paid them 6,000, 7,000 dinars, and now they have to pay me back, and they're not paying me back. Did you read the terms and conditions? No. So it's your fault, it's not their
Yeah.
fault. They were smart. They were smart because they were able to convince you to sign those documents, and you didn't read them because you were thinking about the money that you want to make. So lots of people in the GCC fell in this fault.
Okay, so what are your, I'm not going to say predictions, I'm going to say, what are your expectations for the upcoming period? What businesses do you think can rise and what can fall? What has future, what doesn't? Your own expectations.
All right, we're going to see so much surprises, Of course, the most field that will be affected is tourism and aviation. So we might see companies working together. We might see companies collapsing, going bankrupt. We might see, I say, a development or rise of some aviation companies. Talking about different fields, e-commerce will keep on booming, but it will reach to a stage where it will become stable. We might see new ideas coming up. We might see new investment opportunities, for example, in real estate or in different fields. Real estate in particular, it did went a little bit in decline during the crisis. However, for some people who had the ability to purchase a lot, it was an opportunity because the prices declined. So they bought let's say the properties, and when it goes back up again, they will sell it. Every market has positives and negatives. Predicting is a little bit hard. However, I trust in one thing. Economy is based on some principles. So, but during the crisis, all this stuff change. All the management that you've been depending on for the past years changes. So we might see a new emerging economies coming up. So maybe third world countries start developing. So maybe some more Asian countries. You never know what's going to happen. But my advice for anyone, government, for any company, as much as you can have flexible strategies. For example, in the government in Bahrain, why did we have always a support for 3 months? Why did we have different strategies every 3 months? Because the market is changing. So it goes a little bit up, it goes a little bit down. The more flexible we are, the less impact it will be on our economy. And we might be the least economy in the GCC that might be affected from the pandemic. And we do trust our government in having the right plan, the right strategy, and I would say putting our hands together, consumers with merchants, merchants with the government. It's all one cycle. When we all put our hands together on this cycle, it will move in the right way, in the most sustainable manner.
Now tell us about your paper in the UK.
So going back to the year 2015, 2016, where I achieved the first academic research of its kind in the UK, which talks about foreign investment in the UAE and the GCC, with challenges towards renewable energy, Expo 2020, and diverting towards sustainable economy. And I got the highest grade in the batch. As you know, I lived in the UK for 5 years, from the diploma to bachelor's to master's. So the paper was talking about how the UAE and the GCC was able to attract foreign investments. So the UAE in 2014 was able to attract 14.4 billion US dollars value of foreign investments. They followed studied media. Studied media, as simple as it is when you bring a product and say, for example, I want the Russians or Chinese to buy it. So any media strategy in the country, any channel of social media or under the word of media will work towards one goal and one strategy. And they were able to actually succeed in the strategy. So if you go to any country in the world today and you say Dubai, they know Dubai. But when you talk about any other city in the GCC, they might think twice, they might Google it. But Dubai was able to display this image to the world that we are the most idle economy and we are the most idle place for tourism, travel, and of course, investment.
Okay, so what's the message out of it? I know there is, after a paper or a piece of work, there's always this bold statement or a bold lesson
Yes.
you learned. So what is the...
I had a quote which was the brief of the whole research. And I said, today, all the countries in the world are in the race towards building image and excellence. But it's not about achieving the first place. It's about sustaining your excellence and your economy. So this was the brief of the whole research. Now I'm working on the research to change the research from a research structure to a book, which will be available for everyone who would like to read it, hopefully in the next months.
Okay, that's great. Great news. That's exclusive news for Bahrain International.
Yes.
Okay, so how do you want to end this? Do you want to send out a message to young investors?
Yes, definitely. Today, all of us would like to have our own businesses, our own investments. However, take the right step in the right time. um, even if it's a baby step, as long as it's sustainable and you understand the importance of the step and its positives and negative impact. Learn, read, gain awareness, gain knowledge. It's not wrong not to understand something or to do mistakes, but it's wrong not to learn from these mistakes. So learn from the mistakes, develop yourself, more knowledge, more awareness, and you will be on the right track.
Yes, and study the market and what happened in the market. You don't have to make all the mistakes. You can learn from other
Read every
mistakes.
day, be updated with the market,
Yeah.
and be flexible to learn.
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much for being with us in this episode of Connected from Home. It was a pleasure, and perhaps maybe talk to you in 2021
But I hope.
with
Thank you so
a
much.
new situation.
Thank you so much, Iba. It was my pleasure to be with you. An amazing show, amazing content, and we support you all the way.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is certainly ours.
This is the end of today's episode of Connected from Home. See you next week with new features, stories, and interesting topics from all around the world.